Alright, in this video we're going to take a look at some very important customizations to make to the preferences of Blender. So the way that you do that is just by clicking Edit and Preferences, and then that will bring you to this Blender Preferences screen, which has a lot of options. So just going through it, we're really only going to be making changes to two sections here: Input and Navigation. So the things that I'm going to show you have to do with, the first things I'm going to show you have to do with using the mouse to get around in Blender. And before we make any changes here, I'm going to show you some of the functionality that I really don't like. And you probably won't like it too. So if I have three objects in the scene and I want to get really close to this object here, you'll notice that as I zoom in and out by scrolling the mouse wheel, it's zooming to this 3D cursor, this red circle with an axis there, which we use in other parts of Blender, but it does not zoom to where my cursor is, which I think is the common functionality in any 3D software, is that you zoom to the software, to the cursor. It also doesn't orbit around the selection. So I have this cube selected here, I try to orbit, but it's still orbiting around that 3D cursor. So if I make this change to the viewport, go to Edit Preferences and then Navigation, and choose Orbit Around Selection, choose Auto Perspective and Depth, and also zoom to the mouse position. So I enable these three and then this one, and close it. Now I will be able to zoom directly in on that box that I have selected and also rotate around that box. So notice that whether I am looking at that center box or looking at this box, if I rotate, it's going to rotate around the selected object. And you'll notice that I use a keyboard shortcut to pan in the scene. That's another very important one. Just use the Shift key and grab the middle mouse button, and then you can pan left and right, up and down in the scene. So scrolling to zoom in and out, panning to move up, down, left, right, and then rotating are the most important ways to get around the scene quickly in Blender. And then once you have these input navigation features set up, things will be a lot easier for you. And the other thing that we're going to set up too is if you only have a 2-button mouse, or if you're working on a laptop, you will need to emulate a 3-button mouse to get access to that pan and zoom functionality. And then if you have a computer without a numpad, you're going to want to click this Enable Numpad option, which will let you switch easily into camera mode. So the camera mode is pretty interesting because that will actually switch from the viewport camera mode that we're using to the scene camera. And if we click that button there, or if we now tap the 0 button, it switches between, so we actually view this cube from that camera, and this camera will determine how we render out a high quality image or animation from the scene. So I'll show that to you right now. We're going to do our very first render in Blender. I just click Render and then Render an Image, and it's going to actually render out a high quality image based on that camera. And then from here you can actually click the image menu and save that image as a PNG file or as a JPEG file, right, just like that. So that was our first render, and I'm going to talk more about renders in the upcoming video, but that's the easiest way to get a render out of Blender.